Things you shouldn't have seen. So we're going on a holiday. All right, and I want each of you to make a choice from one of these locations where you would like to go. Okay, Greece. Think of the beaches, the sun. You could go check out some of the ruins. The UK, sort of rich history, some good new art pieces. Maybe see some of the museums there. Or Vietnam. Okay, you can check out the history of the war if you're interested in that. You can check out Ha Long Bay, one of the natural wonders of the world. Lots of options. All right. So come in. Hello. Yeah, I'll just check with you. Thank you. Okay, so choose your spot. Don't tell anyone. It's a secret. All right. It's only what you know. We'll share in a moment. Now, when you go to the location you're visiting, you're going to have the option of some activity you might perform. Okay. So you could go to the beach. All right. There's beach in Vietnam. There's beach in the UK, and there is beach in Greece. You could go to the museum. Museums exist in all of those places as well. Or you could take a tour bus around town, sort of see everything. So choose yourself an activity. All right. And then, it's a secret. It's a secret, Nicola. And then you've got to choose something that you're going to have for lunch. So there's a couple options here. You could have a hot dog. Might be a bit risky in Vietnam. Joke. That's a joke. All right. You could have a salad. All right. Or you could have some of the local food. So up here we've got this is a beef noodle soup that you'd get in Vietnam. In Greece you might have a gyros, and in the UK you might have sausages, fish and chips, something pretty basic. All right. So let's have a report. Harry, what'd you choose? Where'd you go?
Greece, beach, local food.
Local food, nice. Did anyone have the exact same choices as Harry? Oh, a couple of you? No? Jake, what'd you choose?
Vietnam, tour bus, local food.
Local food, nice. Yep. Chelsea?
Greece, go to museum, eat some local food.
Nice. Yep. Okay, so it certainly feels like you made a choice there, right? And if I asked you again, you could have, if you wanted to, you could have chosen to do something different and eat something different and go to a different place, right? So what we're looking at today is called determinism. All right? And so this is a field of metaphysics that says you, as a human being, do not have any free will. Every action that you take is determined. All right? So I've got the cogs of a wheel back here. It's saying you're just a complex machine where there's input coming in, it's being processed, and then there's output. There's no choice, there's no free will, there's no decision on your part. It's just the machinations of the machine taking place. So let's come up with some definitions. We're going to create this dichotomy. We're going to make it so it's mutually exclusive. So we're going to say determinism is the thesis that you don't have free will. All right? All human actions are determined. Humans have no choice. All right? That's what determinism is. And we're going to contrast that with free will. All right? Which means you're not determined. Okay? So actions are determined or they are not determined. It's not a false dichotomy because they are exclusive. I've presented two options. I've been deliberately exclusive about it, such that one of these has to be true or the other has to be true. So just to start with, does anyone here think their actions are determined? Does anyone believe in determinism? So what about we ask it the other way? Can you put your hand up if you think you've got free will? All right, everyone, excellent. Gemma's a bit unsure. But Gemma, it certainly seems like you've got free will, right? It certainly seems like, what a silly idea to entertain. Why would you think we're determined? So, here's a simple response. It certainly seems, looking around you, like the world is flat, like the earth is flat, right? If you were just to consider what you're surrounded by, it would certainly seem that way. But it's only with our understanding of contemporary science that we can come to understand actually we live on a sphere, and it's only because we're really small on that sphere that it looks flat. Similarly, you can make the argument about determinism. It certainly looks as if we have free will, but I'm going to make a series of arguments here to try and convince you, not to try and convince you, just to make you look at, there's some very strong arguments that suggest your behaviour is determined. So we're going to start off with some animals, right? I've got chickens. I've got 8 chickens at the moment. One of them died recently, so I had 9. We're down to 8. And they are, I'm going to say, these guys are completely determined, right? So every morning I go out there and I let them out the gate to sort of run around and have a little peck at the grass. But one of the things that really frustrates me is, I don't know if you've got chickens, is they want to come right up to your back door and they tend to poo right at your back door. All right, that's where they, like we've got a deck going out our back door, and the chickens come up on the deck, so it's a wooden deck, and they poo on the deck. And I was like, it just really annoys me. So I want them to go back in their cage, and if I want them to go back in their cage, all I have to do is walk out with their scraps bucket. We have scraps inside, we put our food scraps in from dinner. I'll carry that outside, and they will follow me wherever I go if I have this scraps container. All right, so I chuck the scraps into their yard, and they'll run in the yard, and I can shut the gate. All right, their behaviour, I would say, is so determined that if I were to chuck the scraps into a shredder, that they would throw themselves into the shredder as well. All right, they are determined. It doesn't seem like they make any choice with regards to it. So that's chickens. They're a pretty basic animal. Next, let's look at something a little bit more complex, perhaps, something we call man's best friend. We've got dogs. Now, there's an interesting science experiment or psychological experiment. Who here is doing psych, by the way? Anyone? All right, we've heard of Pavlov's dogs, the year 11s? Not yet. Aiden has. Do you want to tell us about it? Put you on the spot a bit.
We didn't learn it, but when the psychologist was testing about behaviour, he found that when he put out food and rang the bell, the dogs would come to eat it, and they would salivate to prepare for the meal. And he also found that just by ringing the bell after a while, without actually having any food, the dogs would still think that they were about to receive food.
Very good. So every time he fed them, he would ring a bell. So they would associate the food with the bell, and they developed such a conditioning to it, such that he could shake the bell and they would salivate as if they were going to get food, even if no food was present. So the stimulus was the ringing of the bell. All right. So you can think their behaviour, the thing that took place, was determined by the ringing of the bell. Right, the ringing of the bell. Here's a more interesting example. Have many people seen The Office before, or much of The Office? All right, so you probably know what I'm about to show you then. This goes for about a minute. It's quite a funny clip. So the 2 characters in The Office, Jim and Dwight, they're forever playing pranks. Well, sort of one way, I suppose.
Hey Dwight, do you want an Alton? What do you think? In school, we learned about this scientist who trained dogs to salivate at the sound of a bell by feeding them whenever a bell rang. So for the past couple of weeks, I've been conducting a similar experiment. What? More Alton? Okay. Alton? Sure. Benchmark? Benchmark? Yes. What are you doing? I don't know. Well, my mouth tastes so bad all of a sudden. Ugh.
So it illustrates the point really clearly. Okay, so let's jump back. We had our chickens. All right, I'm saying their behaviour is determined. They're going to follow that food bucket even to a shredder. We got dogs. You can train them to salivate, right? I'll just grab that quickly. And a few interruptions this morning, haven't we? Hello, Daniel speaking. Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, right, so Jake, you got the music thing on this morning? There's a music excursion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's where they want you.
So, wait, where?
They're down at front of the BRC. Have fun.
Thanks.
Okay, then we have Pavlov's dogs. Okay, so you can condition the dogs to salivate.
Turns the other way.
And then we had the example of Jim and Dwight in the office. All right? And so all this is building up to say, maybe you are the same. All right? If humans are just a more complex form of animal, all right, you can make that argument that all we are is just a bit more rational. One of the things Mouse, okay, you might remember from the Matrix, he says in the Matrix, to deny our impulses is to deny the very thing that makes us human. He says to Neo, what do you think of the girl in the red dress? You know, he's saying, I designed her. You know, he's sort of appealing to this emotional side of Neo, this animalistic nature. He's saying, to deny our impulses is to deny what makes us human. Although, if we look at the animals, right, they're just sort of responding, aren't they? That is animalistic. Are humans just animals, or is there something more to them? So this word automaton, right, that means it's like a robot, okay? If something's an automaton, it doesn't think, it doesn't feel, it just acts, all right? Now, it certainly seems like you feel and you think about the world, but the argument from determinism is saying you are just a complex mechanism. There's input coming in, it's being processed, and then there's an output. Just like the chickens, just like the dogs, only you're more complex. So let's look at some reasons why. Firstly, we can appeal to some sort of pop psychology. So these are I've got 4 experiments here I'm going to tell you about. They're very, very cool. So maybe you've been watching basketball or the Super Bowl lately, or even the AFL, and every now and then the video camera pans to the bench and it shows the players on the bench, and they're sitting there, and you'll see them yawning. It's like the Super Bowl grand final. It's the ultimate game in America, and these guys are sitting on the bench yawning like they're bored. What's going on? They are forcing themselves to yawn. All right? They are intentionally yawning. Why? Because when you yawn, it releases the chemicals associated with relaxation. It helps them to combat the chemicals associated with stress. Just by causing yourself to yawn, it can make you feel more relaxed in a highly stressful situation. All right? And like, it's even funny, the other research about yawning is just looking at a person yawning can make you yawn, right? See some people stretching their mouths. Okay, the next one is power pose. So here's the experiment that's presented. They get 2 groups of people. The first group of people stand and make themselves as big as possible in a mirror. Okay, they just stretch out their arms, stretch out their legs, make themselves as massive as possible. All right? And the second group of people, they have to make themselves as small as possible, sort of contract themselves. All right? Stare at themselves in a mirror for 10 minutes. Okay, just sort of looking at themselves. And then they go into a job interview. All right, their job is to go into a job interview. That's the task. And they are assessed on how well they perform. They're assessed on confidence. All right? Just by making your body bigger for 10 minutes, made those people more confident in their job interview. All right, they were ranked as more confident. This is probably my favourite one, pencils. I'll just grab a pencil out to show you this. So again, 2 groups of people, a pen here. And the first group of people, they get a pencil. They have to put it between their nose and their lip, like this. And stare in the mirror for 10 minutes, like that. Okay? Second group of people, they have to put the pencil in their teeth, like this. Okay? Not sure, mate?
No. It's like I just had them all day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I missed it. Oops.
Alright, so we've got the pencil on the first group of people, pencil like this. Second group of people, pencil like this. Okay? And then the experiment is, rate, after you've done that for 10 minutes, rate your subjective well-being. Okay, from a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel? 10 being fantastic, okay, 1 being terrible. Can anyone anticipate the results? Vinny?
The one, the one between the lip and the nose is kind of like a frown,
Mm.
and the one in the teeth is like a smile.
Mm-hmm.
So they might feel a bit happier.
Yeah, like not just a bit. There's a massive difference between them, all right, when randomized trials. Just by using the muscles in your face to smile makes you feel better. Literally, your body language shapes the way you feel. Just by forcing yourself to smile, you can make yourself feel better. And the same with frowning. If you're frowning all the time, it makes you feel cross and angry and upset. All right. So what have these 3 pointed at so far? They've said there are these things external to you, or the way that your body is, that can affect the way you feel. This next one is where the priming experiment comes from. So priming says everything you're surrounded by participates in the decisions you make. So if we look at this word search one in particular, 2 groups of people, okay, like all good experiments. First group of people are doing a word search, all right? Seems like a fairly neutral task, a word search, but the word search only involves aggressive words. So it's stuff like violence, murder, assault, killing, all right? These are the kind of words that they have to find in the word search. And then the second group of people do a neutral word search. These are words that don't have any sort of aggression or non-aggression to them. They're just like whale, shoe, table, all right, find it in the word search. And what they find is the people that do the aggressive word search, okay, so that they do the experiment, and then they do the word search, and then what their task is to do is that they finished it. So they have to go and tell the researcher, I have finished the word search. So they try and find the researcher, they wander down the corridor, and there's the researcher, the scientist who's conducting the experiment, and they're having a conversation with another person. All right? And the person who's finished the word search, they've come up and they're ready to hand it to them, but the researcher's talking. All right? And the experiment is to see how long is it going to take them to interrupt. All right? Because the researcher's just going to keep talking to this person. They're not even going to acknowledge that the experiment's finished. And so the person who the experiment's been done on, the test is to see how long will it take them to interrupt. Okay, what do you think the results are? You can anticipate. All right, those that were primed with aggressive language interrupted like on average like 3 minutes faster, whereas those that had the neutral language took 3 minutes longer. So just doing a word search could affect the behaviours that took place for those people. All right, so all experiments from sort of pop psychology indicating, for us, we're definitely complex, but you can manipulate people. All right, you can sort of determine their outcomes. So that's sort of a scientific approach, but let's look more at a philosophical approach. Firstly, let's consider all of the things that you can't choose. These are things you can't choose. So the first thing is, you don't get to choose your parents. All right, you're just sort of born into the world. You don't even get to choose the fact that you're going to be born or when you're going to be born, do you? You can't choose when you're born, how old you are. You can't choose your intelligence. Yes, you can work hard, all right? But your IQ, your fluid intelligence, isn't something you can say, I want an IQ of 200, all right? That's not something you can choose. Similarly, you can't choose how tall you are, all right? You can't say, I want to be 7 foot tall and just all of a sudden grow to that height. You can't choose your feelings, all right? You can't, let's just say you've had a grandparent pass away and you're feeling pretty sad about it. You say, I'm just going to choose to be happy and I'll feel happy, all right? So you can't choose your feelings, you can't make that choice. You can't choose your beliefs either. You know, we're investigating like this idea of determinism, and it all certainly seems like we've got free will. We're investigating God. We'll continue that one as well. What about like the statement, I want you to believe 2 + 3 = 7. Can you choose to believe that? You can choose to make the statement, but that doesn't mean you believe it's true in your head. All right? You can't choose the things you want. All right? So let's say for dinner, you can have some KFC or you can have some vegetables. All right? Definitely, like if I think of my circumstance, maybe yours would be different. Like I would much prefer to have the KFC. It's like delicious, you know, it's nice and salty, nice and really enjoyable. Compare that with just eating Brussels sprouts. Not something particularly good, even though it might be better for me in the long run. You can't choose to want something. And so similarly, your desires, I'm going to use those two synonymously, but you know, like you desire KFC, you can't choose to desire kale instead. What else? And so the argument from determinism says you can't choose any of these things, and they extend it to your actions. You don't get to choose your actions. So let's look at the first argument. All right, here's the argument we're going to present. It says, any action you take for two reasons. And really we're going to reduce it to one. You take it because you want to do it, or you take it because you're forced to do it. Okay? So let's think specifically about the KFC Brussels sprouts. All right? You choose to eat KFC because you want to, or in the circumstance where you choose to have the Brussels sprouts, where you choose not to eat KFC, you only do so because you want the benefits of eating the vegetables. All right? So we always have competing wants, and our actions are always dictated by one want beating the other. All right? So two wants, the desire for KFC, but also the desire for a healthy body. Sometimes the healthy body will triumph. Sometimes the desire for KFC will triumph. Either way, you are always acting the way you want, with an outcome you want. All right? Or you're forced to do it. Okay, so you can think of a couple of examples of coercion. Your parents say to you, you need to take the garbage out, or you're not allowed to go on your phone. You're not allowed to play computer games. All right? So that might be sort of you're coerced into doing something. And in that circumstance, you're going to take the rubbish out. Why? Because you want to go on your phone. Someone holds a gun to your head and says, perform this action, take the rubbish out. Okay? You're going to do it because you want to survive. All right? So you can reduce all actions, everything you take, because you want to do it. Everything you do because you want to. That's the first premise. So here's the argument. Harry, can you read it for me?
P1. Any action we perform is because we want to do it. P2. No one chooses what they want. Conclusion. Therefore, no one chooses what actions they perform.
Excellent. So this is, again, it's a valid deductive argument. The conclusion says determinism is true. It says no one chooses what actions they take. All right? If you disagree with the conclusion, then one of these premises needs to be wrong. You need to disagree with one of these premises. So, P1, any action we take is because we want to. P2, no one chooses what they want. Let's have a discussion about it. Any issues with P1 or P2?
What happens if my want changes?
Yep. Like, provide an example.
Say I wanted to see this movie, but my mate spoiled it and I learned online that it was a really bad movie.
Mm-hmm.
Do I still want to see it? So, say I don't want to see it, does that mean changing my want?
Yep.
Yeah.
And so you would just act accordingly, though, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So you would not go and see it because you don't want to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would support it, wouldn't it? Because you're still acting the way you want.
Limitations of compulsions.
Yep.
Like if you're limited to something, you can't really do it. It's like you understand why you can't do it. Like there's a need for it, but it also supports implement.
Yep. Yep. Which premise would that one be for, do you think?
P2 anyway.
Yep. No one chooses what they want, right? Yeah. So it'd be nice to choose to fly or to be 7 feet tall or whatever, but you can't make those choices. And the same with the KFC Brussels sprouts one. Taj, you right?
Yeah.
So does this argument work then? Is our behaviour just determined?
By us, yes.
Determined by us. Yep. But that would suggest if we get to make the choices, then we get to choose what we want.
Can't you have like many different wants simultaneously, and you have the option to pick which one you want to focus on first?
Yep. Very good. So let's like reduce it to that dichotomy again. KFC, Brussels sprouts. Sometimes you choose the KFC. Why? Because you want it. Sometimes you choose the Brussels sprouts. Why? Because you want a healthy body. All right. Either way, you're acting according to a want, and you always have competing wants, and it's just one of them you want more than the others. That's the argument I'm going to make here a bit. Logic? Yeah. What do you mean?
You can't like when a person because we're humans, we have morals and we have logic.
Mm-hmm.
So we understand logically. You can't really perform two tasks at once and actually get the achievement that you get. It's based on the person's will, in a way, and the environment that they're surrounded with, and actual logic of the universe.
Yeah. So you can't choose both of them. You have to choose one, and so one want always beats the other, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And but is it still something you want?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what about this? Like one of their opening questions was, can you choose your favorite color? And what I meant was that by your favorite color might be blue. Did you make that choice, or is that something that happened to you? Is it just so happened that you saw blue and liked it? Because if you could choose your favorite color, then theoretically you could choose to like vomit green and make that your favorite color. Does anyone think you can do that, to choose your favorite color?
Well, according to this argument, no, we can't, because we can't choose the actions that we perform.
Yeah. I mean, if this action is true, that's what it says. Yeah. And if it's true, you can't choose your favorite color, then you can't choose what you want. Can you choose to prefer to like kale more than KFC?
Yeah. What if you just really dislike the taste of KFC?
But is that a choice that you've made, or is that just something that's happened to you?
Well, no, it wouldn't be a choice. So if KFC made you sick, you want to not be sick, so you won't eat the KFC.
So you're still acting according to a want. This is a very tough argument. All right. This is a very tough argument. All right, Jake, let's shut our laptop. All right, let's have a look at the next argument. Okay. So Laplace is a French physicist, and he suggested if we had these three things, all right, if we had infinite computing power, full knowledge of the laws of physics, and we knew the location and position of every atom in the universe, then we would know everything that's going to happen in the future and everything that's going to happen in the past. So his understanding of physics is of the universe.
Mister.
Can I just finish this point? And then
Yeah, of course.
Here's the universe. It's just atoms, all right? And all they're doing is interacting with each other. And if we could capture them at one point now, we could rewind the laws of physics to see what had happened, and we could fast forward the laws of physics to see what was going to happen. So that's Laplace's point. Now, sorry, Abbas, do you have a point about the previous argument?
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's chat about it at the end, because
Good got you.
Yeah. So Laplace says, even if you consider rolling dice, okay, rolling dice certainly seems like a random act. You're rolling the dice, and their outcome's going to be random, right? But according to Laplace's understanding of physics, no, it won't be, because you're throwing those dice with a certain amount of force. The surface that they're rolling on has a certain amount of friction. The angle that it's impacting the surface has a specific angle. That's going to dictate the path that it takes. So Laplace says, even when you've thrown these dice, that outcome is already determined. All that needs to happen is the laws of physics are unfolding. And so you apply this argument to us humans, right? All humans are made of atoms. All right, that's what humans are. They're made of atoms. But the movement of all atoms is dictated by the laws of nature. Okay, what's the conclusion that follows from this? Therefore, all human actions are dictated by the laws of nature. You don't get to make a decision, the universe does for you. You're just a packet of atoms in the universe unfolding. That's the second argument. So let's just talk about the second argument.
So he's kind of assuming that humans don't have any non-physical element that can affect reality.
Perfect. Yep, that's probably the number one critique of this argument, is that this assumes materialism. Okay, it assumes, in the first premise, all humans are is just atoms. Maybe there is a spiritual, maybe humans have a soul, maybe they have a non-physical mind, and so that could rebut that premise. Very good. So that's how we critique this argument. We say, perhaps there's more to humans than just being made of atoms. However, if you think we are just atoms, does this argument hold? Yeah, it seems that way. It seems you'd accept P1. I don't know how you'd combat P2. Any other comments about this argument?
How do we know what exactly all the laws of nature are?
We don't know all the laws of nature, and even our understanding of science at the moment doesn't describe things as they are. It describes things as they approximately are. That's a lesson for epistemology, but nonetheless, we're saying there are laws of nature. Whatever they are, there are laws of nature. All right, because things act according to order. All right, the pen always falls to the ground every time I drop it. It's an ordered state. It's the fact that the pen fell to the ground, that's dictated by the laws of nature. All right, any more comments about this argument? Any?
This is less arguing against the argument and more about the stuff about the computational power. It would be impossible because, so say you're calculating something that has infinite decimal places because of the accuracy of that calculation. It would be impossible to calculate it, wouldn't it? Because we can't have infinite processing power.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So like Laplace's point, I think, is just about if it was possible to have this stuff, this would be the conclusion. So he's just making this is hard determinist. He's just making the hard determinist case. All right. So there, I've made probably two fairly strong arguments for determinism. All right. I certainly think I've got free will after having entertained these, and I'm not going to tell you why exactly. I think we've got a good solution here. The first one's a bit more tricky to combat. But let's look at the other case, the impossibility of proving that you have free will. Certainly feels and seems like you've got free will. I chose to go to Greece and have a Euros and go to the beach, but I certainly could have done otherwise. I could have chosen differently. Okay, prove it. You can't. So this is that point we were making about contingency, is how do we know it could have been different? Because these are the events that took place. Could things really have been different? And so for determinism, that says free will certainly looks and seems like it, but it's an illusion. It's an illusion that you have. You're like a puppet, all right? You're this packet of matter, and the universe is the puppet master. You're just acting according to the laws of nature. You don't really have any free will.
If like the universe is the puppet, like going back to good and evil, like why would it harm itself?
Really good point. Like, and if so, think about it like this: if things are just matter, if you're just a packet of atoms, well, there's no such thing as good and evil. Like, if you chop a log in half, that's just 2 bits. It's now 2 bits. What if you chop a person in half? Well, that's just 2 parts of a body. It doesn't have any value apart from the fact that it's just material. But like maybe you're getting at this point as well, is if our actions are determined, well, that means there's no such thing as a good person or a bad person, because a good person is they're just determined to act that way, and a murderer and a violent person, you can reduce it to it's the worst. Hitler was determined to act that way. He didn't actually have a choice.
If we're controlled, is there still something that exists that has free will? Because for there to be laws and to go back, not everything could have been from order. Something had to
assert order over the
So,
system.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's an argument for the existence of God. Yep,
Yeah.
and that's a question probably outside
Okay.
of the domain of determinism at the moment. And even within the idea of God, there are those that believe in predestination. You know, that God set everything in order and is just watching this clock unwind. You know, observing it from the outside. Abbas?
Mister, so like you said, from the laws of physics.
Yep.
I would say